So here's our game plan. We're going to start with why people can sometimes be the weakest link. Then we'll define the solution with a look at training versus performance assurance. We'll get into how to build a robust program, and we'll look at a shocking real-world example of what happens when things go wrong. Finally, we'll talk about how you can sustain a powerful safety culture.
All right, let's kick things off by framing the core problem we're really trying to solve here. I want you to just think about this for a second. When you picture a huge refinery or chemical plant, what comes to mind as the single biggest risk? Is it some high-pressure valve, a super complex reactor, maybe a piece of old aging equipment? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. More often than not, it's the people. You see, a consistently high level of human performance is absolutely critical for any process safety program. If that performance isn't where it needs to be, it can undermine every single thing you do, no matter how well engineered all your hardware is. So, if human performance is the potential problem, what's the solution? Well, it's a two-part answer that involves two very distinct but deeply connected ideas: training and performance assurance. First up, you've got training. Think of this as the textbook part of the equation. It's the practical, hands-on instruction, whether you're in a classroom or out on the job, that gives workers the basic knowledge they need to meet the minimum standards for their role. It's the what to do and the how to do it. But hey, just reading the textbook isn't enough, is it? That's where performance assurance comes in. If training is the textbook, then performance assurance is the final exam, and all the pop quizzes you get along the way. It's that ongoing process of making sure that workers have actually understood the training and can apply it out in the real world. It's the proof. And this image right here, it just illustrates a super crucial point. Training and performance assurance aren't just some HR function or another box-ticking exercise. No way. They are a foundational pillar of managing risk inside a strong process safety management system. They're as fundamental to your safety as the steel in your pipes.
Okay, so we know what the solution is. Now let's talk about how to actually build it. We're going to move from the theory to the practical and break down the steps for creating a program that really truly works. You know, building an effective program follows a really logical path. You start by identifying all the specific jobs and tasks that people need to do. Simple enough. Then, for each one of those tasks, you figure out the required knowledge, skills, and abilities, we call them KSAs, that a person needs to do it safely. Then you can see the gaps between what your people know and what they need to know. And only then, can you build the right training to close those specific gaps.
And you gotta remember, this is not a one-and-done deal. Not at all. Performance assurance is a continuous cycle. You qualify workers when they first start a role. Then you test them from time to make sure those skills stay sharp. And you periodically review the qualification requirements themselves to make sure they're still relevant. It's a loop that just keeps going. Now, theory is one thing, but the consequences of getting this wrong are, well, they're very real. Let's look at a case study that shows exactly what happens when there's a fundamental gap in someone's knowledge. This quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly frames what we're about to talk about. So often, disasters don't happen because someone missed some super complex, high-level training. They happen because of a simple, profound ignorance of the absolute basics. So the story starts with something that sounds so mundane. A worker just needed a little bit of gasoline to use as a cleaning solvent. A simple, everyday task in a lot of industrial places. And right here, this is where a catastrophic gap in basic knowledge turned a simple task into a total disaster. To get the gasoline, he decided to siphon it from a truck. And to start the siphon, he used this suction from a vacuum cleaner. He had no idea that the flammable gasoline vapors would get sucked right into the vacuum, where the electric motor would provide a perfect ignition source. The explosion that followed, it was inevitable. Wow, that story really shows you what the stakes are, doesn't it? So let's wrap this up by looking at how you can build and sustain a safety culture that stops incidents like that from ever happening. You see, a truly comprehensive program has to cover the entire life cycle of a process. It's not just about what happens during normal operations. It includes everything from the initial design phase to understanding all the hazards and managing those risks, all the way to safely changing processes and responding if an incident does occur. Every single stage has unique risks that need specific, targeted training. So, what does a truly effective, world-class program actually look like? Well, it has a few key hallmarks. It includes all personnel, because in a high-hazard place, safety is literally everyone's job. And this is huge. It makes sure that contractors, who are often doing very high-risk work, are qualified to the exact same standards as your own employees. It doesn't just assume people know things, it actively verifies it with tests and demos. And of course, everything is documented, from initial training to every single refresher.
And that really leaves us with one final, and maybe the most critical question to think about. In your own organization, is training treated like an active, vital shield that protects your people and your facility from disaster? Or has it just become another box to check on some compliance form? Honestly, the answer to that question could make all the difference in the world.